Give me one moment. Okay, I have the chat pulled up. Okay, quick system update, or just general update. We haven't streamed in a while, I'm aware of this. We have been dealing with a lot of offline things. Related to that, we switched therapists, and we actually had our first session with her about an hour ago. I like her so far. Echo seems to like her, so we will see how that goes. But I have a little bit of time, so I'm going to do another correcting DID misinformation stream. I just want to get through some of these because there are so many videos in this playlist now.
I'm gonna need some help. I'm panicking. Please, if I laugh, I won't cry. Who's gonna step in to help me film? Don't think about it. I'm staring at a camera. How can I not think about it? This whole thing is uncomfortable. You just gotta do it.
Alright, so Dissociated is claiming that it is triggering for them to film, so let's take a look at our handy-dandy autonomic nervous system worksheets. In this situation, let's assume they're in fight, flight, or hyperfreeze. Primary state, react to danger, await opportunity to escape. You are tense or rigid like a deer in the headlights. Your breathing might be fast, often in upper chest, or even hyperventilation. Your heart rate might be quick and forceful, pupils very dilated, eyes dry, eyelids tensed or raised. This can be a reason why some of us feel like we can literally see tunnel vision when in this state. Sweat may be cold or cold sweat. You'll see a dry mouth or skin. You might be in terror and have dissociation. Your contact with yourself or others might be limited or not likely. Your frontal cortex, which is responsible for things like judgment or maintaining social appropriateness, might be inaccessible. So yeah, they switch out into Sally, an alter who is supposed to calm them down.
My name is Sally. My role, I'm technically a protector, but I'm more of an inner caretaker. I used to exist primarily to soothe Chloe.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another video by Dissociated.
And she just continues filming. I don't know, do with this what you will. Today we are going to be reacting to switches.
Okay, that was a lot. Let me just take a second to get my thoughts together. You won't always be able to tell if someone is having a trauma response or what that trauma response is. People with trauma often cope with things like humor and making light of the situation. That is what I'm going to say on that.
On camera, littles on camera, and of course self-diagnosis of complex dissociative disorders is okay. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
I do want to address one comment. So in the pinned comment, she asks people how they feel about the portrayal of DID on TikTok. This comment specifically. I also think alters educating is dangerous because they may have different beliefs and feelings based on past traumas. Yes, alters may have different beliefs and feelings based on past traumas. That does not mean that alters should not be able to educate. Why would someone with DID not be able to educate? Why? That is just very confusing to me. If you have the disorder and want to educate people about it, you should be able to. There needs to be more videos from people who have the disorder rather than people like this channel who do not have it.
There are many different types of switches, whether it involves hours of dissociation or you don't even notice it from the outside perspective. Also, we love the switch on camera where they just look at the camera because they already knew they were filming. I mean, okay, these videos are hard to dissect because it could be something like, you know, the other was co-conscious or something like that. I understand the concept of a positive trigger and why this can be helpful for someone with a dissociative disorder like dissociative identity disorder.
To Ollie, Merry Christmas, dude. Miss you a bunch from Stacey, Nick, and Co. Exciting! Oh no. Oh my, this is so cool. Hey. Okay, look. You know, look, it's a Dorbs.
Oh, right, okay,
Which
cool.
is Adorbs. That's so cool. And it's the Daedric armor from Skyrim.
But forcing a switch for the camera can be seen as sensationalism or even exploiting. It could be a violation of privacy or consent with the other alternatives.
Do people force switches on camera for that reason?
State, they might not want to be on camera. Depending on the person, forcing a switch can be emotionally distressing or psychologically harmful. According to author Becca Hargis, in DID, a switch is when a person changes from one alter state to another. This is usually caused by a trigger that initiates or activates a switch. Triggers can be either positive or negative. A positive trigger is something non-trauma related and is present enough to cause an alter to come forward and experience happy emotions, such as a special toy, cute puppies, or a favorite ice cream flavor. A positive trigger in some instances can be used to bring forth an alter. Alters can switch for all types of reasons depending on the trigger. Switching between headmates is usually involuntary and can create a great amount of distress within the alter. Alternative states will come out when there is a need for them. Switches happen when there is a trigger and a different alternative state with a different role and skills is needed. If a member is not ready to come out but you provoke him or her by using a name and triggers, it can ultimately be damaging for the alternative state and the system. But if you're using your condition for entertainment or
I really don't like how she is changing the word alter or headmate to alternative state. That feels very dehumanizing. It just is. It's very dehumanizing.
shock value, it can have ethical concerns, although providing content warnings might be appropriate because it can be triggering or upsetting for others struggling with DID. Yeah, so I can't tell if this person like genuinely switched or they're just saying like, yeah, this is what it looks like and feels like. But at the same time, DID does not just involve changing clothes or having...
It was, what, a 15-second at most TikTok? Those two alters could have been co-fronting. It was obviously a planned thing. And obviously it doesn't just involve changing clothing. The alter who switched out was obviously not comfortable with whatever the other one was wearing. Fairly simple to understand.
Different personalities. This can actually be a reinforcement of dissociation and the separateness of different alternative states.
Alters are their own people. Yes, we are all parts of one system, but we are all our own separate people with our own thoughts and opinions and memories and reactions. For some systems, it is more helpful to not be as separated, which is fine, especially when you are dealing with things like consensual fusions, communication it can help with. It depends on the system and the alters. But being separate isn't a bad thing.
Focusing on different clothes or mannerisms can actually deepen dissociative barriers between some individuals with dissociative disorders. Therapy often aims to promote co-consciousness, cooperation among alters, and integration of identities, whether that is functional multiplicity or final fusion, to achieve a more cohesive sense of self. For some, it can perpetuate a fragmented sense of self, making co-consciousness or integration harder. Although, stop, this is our time in the video where I do say that I'm literally not a professional, and I can't say whether anyone in this video does or doesn't have the disorder they're claiming. But this can lead to misunderstandings and stigma about what DID is. I mean, imagine you've never heard of DID before and this is the very first video you see.
Alters are allowed to have fun and have hobbies and make videos if they would like. Not all systems want to educate, and not all systems do educate. People with DID should not be forced to constantly be educational. Yes, my streams are more educational because it's correcting misinformation, but for alters like Echo and Eras, they would rather play games. They are allowed to have fun and stream and just exist like any other person. It is not their fault or their responsibility for other people's view. If people see a 15-second TikTok and just assume that is how the disorder is, and assume that's all there is to it, that is not that system's fault. That is the person's fault who is refusing to do any other research and refusing to educate themselves with things like actual medical papers and studies and educational information. If someone looks at a 15-second TikTok of alters just existing, which they are allowed to do, and think, oh, that's all this disorder is, that is not that system's fault. And I don't like the fact that it has been pushed so much that systems cannot exist online unless they are constantly educating, and that we have to be responsible for everyone else learning about the disorder, and we need to constantly portray it a certain way when every system is so vastly different. when the symptoms show differently in different systems, in different alters. I do these streams because I want to, not because I'm being forced to. And no one should make anyone else feel like they need to constantly educate and that they can't exist online unless they are being perfect and showing all sides of DID. It's this constant thing where if systems online show that they are happy and enjoy existing, then they're romanticizing the disorder. But then if systems show things like them being triggered, them having flashbacks, the negative parts, then it's demonizing it. We cannot win. Nothing we do is going to make everyone happy. And it is not our responsibility to educate other people. It is not our responsibility to be this perfect representation online when we are people too.
It sounds like a dog toy, but actually, this is the sonorous war cry of a very angry frog.
So yeah, let's just assume for a moment that this little is interested in coming online and filming a TikTok video. When in an age-regressed state, you might be more vulnerable and less able to consent with activities shared online. This can lead to privacy violations, exploitations, or even being taken advantage of. I mean, you know, there's a reason why TikTok says that you're not allowed to be on the app if you are under 13 years old. I've talked to systems who don't want their littles online because they are trying to protect their vulnerability. In some cases, it could be like parenting your little alter, you know, are you allowed to eat sweets at all times of the day? Littles might not understand the implications of being on camera or the long-term consequences, but let's entertain the idea, definitely not this person specifically, but if a person were to have sort of an imitative version of DID, when focusing on fabricated experiences like, wow, shock value, age-regressed alter on camera, there's a risk for
There is a difference between a child alter, and being age regressed. Those two are not the same thing. Yes, you are in a similar state of mind, I suppose. You process things differently, but they are not the same thing. Alters can age regress. I believe we have one who age regresses. I don't believe she's ever been on stream. But age regression is a temporary state. A child alter exists as that. It's not the same thing. I personally believe that littles should not be online unless they are being supervised by another alter who is an adult or a caretaker, just for the safety of that little. I cannot control other systems, but that is what we do with ours. We have had our littles stream before, but there has always been at least one adult Alter around and making sure that nothing was going to happen.
Diverting attention away from people who genuinely do have the disorder and resources. It is unfortunate, but there are people who don't believe that DID exists at all, so if they see a video like this, they might just be like, oh yeah, that's a confirmation. But at the same time, if you are an overt system, I don't think that should make you shy away from sharing your genuine experiences as long as there's education with it.
That is my problem. That is my problem. Systems are allowed to exist without being a constant source of education. Systems are allowed to share their own experiences without something educational to go along with it. That is my issue.
Like, self-diagnosis isn't valid, but my diagnosis of undiagnosed you is valid. You're the hypocrite, and I am not.
I mean, I agree with this person in the way that you can't possibly tell if someone is faking, you know what I mean? They could be playing it up. They might be faking certain events. You know, that's why in my videos I always say I really can't tell if this person genuinely has it or not because I am not their diagnostic professional. However, dissociative identity disorder can take months or even years to diagnose with different things like brain scans and different tests. Ruling out different disorders, different dissociative disorders. There have been times where people think they have DID, but it turns out they actually have a brain tumor.
We did not get a brain scan for when we got our diagnosis. We took something called the MID, which measures levels of dissociation. It ruled out BPD, it ruled out bipolar. It showed we have PTSD and DID. That and our therapists just observing, hearing our experiences, obviously it could be something else, but I don't know, that was confusing.
Or something like that. And a lot of people think like, oh, well, my personality changes throughout the day, so I must have DID, but also that can be a lot of different disorders. Or for some, it can actually...
Everyone's personality will change with different environments and situations. You won't have necessarily the same personality that you do at work as you do with when you are just at home or at school. But it's not... DID is more than just personality changes. Yes, alters have different personalities from each other. But that's only one of the criteria from the DSM-5 and the ICD. Alters are more than just their personality. I am more than just my personality.
Be a normal experience. For example, you have a different personality with your significant other than you do with your grandmother. I think self-diagnosis can be valid in the way that you're kind of using it as a placeholder until you are able to get in to get help. But if you're like, I'm not going to see a professional, I'm going to go on #therapy talk and solve all of my symptoms. This could be harmful in the way that if you are wrong, you might not be receiving appropriate treatment that is tailored to your needs. Especially, what if you believe...
I do actually agree with her there. Self-diagnosis should not be a permanent thing. It should be temporary until you can actually get professional help. But you should not just self-diagnose and then not try to receive help. The entire point of trying to figure out what disorder you have is so that you can get help for it.
If you have DID, you make all of this educational content about it, and then you go in to get a diagnosis a few years later, and it turns out you didn't have it. So this can result in some of your followers, joining on that bandwagon, believing that they have it, and this circle kind of continues.
So are we supposed to make educational content, or are we not? It cannot be both.
The IT community is autistic or has other intellectual disabilities. We're autistic and have other intellectual disabilities. And PTSD, CPTSD, it's brain damage.
When speaking about brain damage in terms of dissociative identity disorder, when you are a child, needs aren't being met, obviously. For DID, specific brain regions may show differences, like the hippocampus or amygdala, involved in processing emotions and memories. Studies have shown that individuals with DID often have a smaller hippocampal and amygdala volumes compared to those without the disorder.
Okay, there are some references, but that is a positive thing. I haven't looked into those myself, but I do wish that there were more than just 2 videos and 1 article. But it is definitely an improvement from what I remember other videos being.
Your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive functions, decision making, and regulated behavior, can be influenced by trauma and can affect its development and functioning.
So when you have a community of highly traumatized, brain-damaged people, many of whom have other neurodivergent conditions, you're going to get a community who doesn't act in very socially acceptable ways, who may be melodramatic, who may be cringy, who may be over the top, and that is their genuine experience. A lot of people find our page like melodramatic and cringy and over the top. We get reposted on like r/fake disorder and r/system cringe fairly frequently. And we have a history in public speaking and theater. We've done a lot of acting in the past. So we are very comfortable sitting down in front of a camera.
Describing DID as brain damage can perpetuate stigma and
That is not what they said. They said that trauma is brain damage, which is true. Trauma is not just a mental thing, it affects you physically too, especially if left untreated, especially if it is chronic trauma, which is needed to develop DID.
accurate views of the disorder. DID is a complex mental health condition that is caused by trauma, not brain damage, although I do understand that this could just be a mismatch in words. While some early in recovery might struggle with daily life functioning, I do think that it can be kind of stigmatizing to say that you are not capable of doing other things. But anyways, I'd be curious to know your thoughts on the videos presented today. Do you think that I missed something?
So again, trauma is brain damage, technically. Not in the way that maybe a car accident causes brain damage, but it is damage.
Everyone underestimates me, but then they turn their back, and I'm like,
I thought we were kind of trying to move away from the idea that people with DID have a murderous alter, like in Split. Maybe this person was using it as a symbol rather than what it looks like, but even so, if you have an alternative state who might lash out on other people, that is still not a healthy way to go. While it can be the reality for a lot of people, talking about it through therapy instead of glamorizing that version on social media might be a good idea. In today's video, we are going to be reacting to some people who claim DID who are promoting bullying other people online, alters having use. And age-regressed little alters on camera is totally fine, so make
a lot of what I said in the last video is probably going to be repeated here. A lot of persecutor alters specifically, and I'm speaking as someone who used to be a persecutor before I fused and before Val reformed. Persecutors often do have a lot of unhealthy tendencies, unhealthy coping mechanisms. Some do have more violent tendencies and more violent thoughts and feelings. That does not mean that we are going to go out and hurt someone. And simply doing a transition with a fake weapon, it doesn't mean that they are okay.
Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
Your alters aren't, but mine is. You can't talk for all systems. A good example is how the A system has a alter for just driving. I have an alter for just doing things. He's a horrible addict. He only comes out when there are hard things around. He's just an addict. He has no other personality.
Yes, alters can have addictions that other alters don't. Val specifically, which is one of the alters that fused with another to create who I am now, she was very addicted to alcohol, especially in high school. But that's not all she was. And saying that all your alter is an addict is very harmful. It's not going to make that alter want to get help. It's just going to reinforce that behavior. It's demonizing that alter. Alters are more than just their addictions or their triggers, whether positive or negative. They are more than their behaviors, or they are their own people.
But
So I do want to preface that I'm not a professional. I can't say whether these people do or don't have DID. It's more the portrayal of it that can be a little bit distressing. Could it be possible to have an alternative state whose explicit purpose is to do drugs? Yes, but why is this a healthy thing to portray online? This person might have been describing a fragment. Some alters are very limited in their role. For example, they may only have a small number of emotions, hold particular isolated memories, or have a very limited job. Special purpose fragments are even more limited, for example, existing to carry out a very limited role and never acting beyond that. I kind of look at it in the same way as if this person didn't have DID. Would it be okay for me to come on camera and be like,
Yeah, guys, I did a bunch of today.
you know what I mean? But because it is DID, it can also lead to stigma and misconceptions of how DID works. Publicly associating use with DID can lead to stereotypes and misunderstandings of the disorder. Maybe if you were to, I don't know, talk about this alternative state abuse and how they're getting help in treatment, that would...
Again, with the alternate state thing, very dehumanizing. It just is.
Would be less stigmatizing.
Listen, I want everyone to know that from this post onward, absolutely nothing happened this morning involving a mental breakdown, half a jar of vodka, and a $30 bag of 1,000 milligram gummies. Anyways, that never happened. Everything's fine.
I mean, again, a lot of people with various mental illness might be able to relate to this. I mean, sure, I guess you could argue that you are allowed to post this online if you want to, but DID is already a highly stigmatized disorder. In past videos, I have said that people...
Let me make something very clear. People who have been traumatized severely are going to seek out any coping mechanism that they can find to make themselves feel better, even for just a short amount of time. That often leads to things like addiction. It's just the reality of it. It's just the reality of it.
With an imitative version of DID, it can be highly distressing to people with genuine DID to see only, oh, my perfect alters in our perfect headspace. And sure, if this person does genuinely have DID and they're sharing a genuine experience, great, but what are we doing about it? We're just going to live with it? I do understand that, like, substance abuse is...
Whatever they are going to do about it, outside of that TikTok that they chose to share, is, to be quite blunt about it, none of your goddamn business. It's not any of your business. People with DID do not owe the entire internet their entire life story. It's not your business. Worry about yourself.
Not something that can be completely fixed within one therapy session. But I don't know, when I've talked about my own personal experience with substance abuse, it's not something that I would want to brag about. It's more for informational. What did I do about it? I'm not going to comment on...
And that was your choice. That was your choice to share that. What you choose to share is your business, and what you don't choose to share is also your business.
Whether, like, legal substances like cannabis do or don't help a person with DID, because I don't have it and I don't want to say, like, if you do have DID you should turn to these substances, because I don't know, what if you genuinely do have DID and you're like, oh, well, this person is doing it and it seems to be helping them, and you turn to it and it leads to higher levels of dissociation and even flashbacks. But at the same time, turning to these maladaptive coping skills kind of put a band-aid on a bullet wound. It's still going to be there the next day.
Yup. Everyone who does substances is aware of that. I was aware of it when I was drinking in high school as Val. I didn't care that it was only temporary. I only cared that for a short while I wasn't thinking about how much I was hurting.
I do have a kind of question for individuals with DID in the way that if you really go all out and dress how you truly feel in this alternative state, what happens if you switch? I can't say.
I like wearing makeup when I'm on stream. If we switch, Sometimes, depending on who the alter is who switches out, will just continue like this. Other alters will just go and take it off if they are able to. Obviously, if we are in public, there's not much we can do. That's what happens. It's not rocket science. Okay, there are more references here. I do appreciate the references. That is very
that
good.
This person doesn't have it. I mean, every single person with DID is different, but DID is a complex psychological condition that results from severe and repeated childhood trauma. Discussions that superficially focus on how alters dress can deter people from the deeper psychological aspects of the disorder.
Again, no system owes you education. If a system wants to just talk about how their system presents, how they dress, what they like to do, what they don't like, that is perfectly fine. People do that online all the time who don't have DID. We are already severely traumatized, as you have just stated. Why are you trying to force severely traumatized individuals to be a constant source of education online?
For a lot of people, I can imagine it is distressing to talk about these symptoms of PTSD, flashbacks, and dissociation on camera, but at the same time can make someone with genuine DID feel dismissed in the way that, oh, you know, my alters don't just dress up and have a good time and go back in, but rather they might have symptoms.
That is a personal problem that system needs to work through then. A random system online just existing should not be the end-all be-all of if another system feels validated or not. Obviously, it's different if that system is going out of their way to fake claim other people's. For instance, if they say if you don't do this, then obviously you don't have DID. You only have DID if you do this, this, and this. That's different. But a system simply existing online as they are, if someone else feels invalidated by them just existing, that is their own issue that they need to work through. That is not the other system's responsibility.
Of SH, you know, do things when I'm not here that deter my life. I do think that it's perfectly fine for an individual with or without DID to post a video like this. Why are we tagging it #DID? We're not talking about the
because they have DID. Because DID affects every part of your life. Whether you want it to or not, it does. Why do we tag all of our streams on Twitch with DID? Because even if we don't switch, we are a DID system. There's a possibility of that happening. It tells people what to expect. That's it. It's not that deep.
Disorder. There's nothing really about the disorder in this post other than you are an alternative state.
Every alter in a system is an alter. There's no one person in the system is an alter and one other person, a different person in the system is not an alter. Every person in a system is an alter.
So I have covered the Marade system in the past, and at the same time, I cannot see it being appropriate for any person over age to just bully people underage, whether they are or aren't an alter. Blaming your actions on an alter.
There's no other context given. I can't comment on this because I don't know what the conversation was. Obviously, blaming one alter for the actions of a system is not okay. System responsibility, what one alter does, everyone has to take accountability for it.
Alternative state doesn't justify the actions that were caused. In the same way that a lot of the time, not always, BPD is a disorder that is caused by trauma. So while it's not your fault that these traumatic events during childhood happen to you, it is your responsibility to seek help. I've even seen some individuals with dissociative identity disorder be like, well, if we're going to be friends, you're going to have to put up with abusive behavior from different alternative states.
Obviously, that is not okay. If a system maybe warns potential friends about, hey, I have a specific alter who may act like this, they can apologize in advance and apologize afterward. It doesn't make it okay, but you only have so much control over that.
And that's just not the reality of it. Just because you have an alternative state who might have these behaviors doesn't mean that it's okay.
I don't think anyone was saying that it's okay, and I still don't understand why that video was shown with no other context.
There could be so many reasons why a therapist might decide they don't want to see you anymore, and by the way, this person is like tagging it with #DID. If there is little progress, they might believe you need a higher level of care. Sometimes there might be a mismatch in a therapeutic approach, or your personalities just clash. Obviously, I wasn't there during your therapy session, and I obviously can't tell whether this person does or doesn't have DID, but at the same time, if they believe that they are viewing an imitative version of a disorder, they might not believe that their therapy can be beneficial for you at this time. This can prevent the client from receiving the help that they truly need. While I obviously do think people faking disorders do deserve therapy.
A few things. So one, if a therapist believes that you are faking a disorder, if they are a good therapist, the bare minimum, they should bring that up. Secondly, unfortunately, there are still a lot of medical professionals who don't believe that dissociative disorders even exist. Our therapist said that outright today. That there are a lot of people in therapy, therapists, and other medical professionals that just don't believe that it exists, for whatever reason. That also adds to why it is and why it can be so difficult for people with DID to even look for treatment, let alone get it. Because if you find a therapist who takes your insurance and it's all you can afford and they don't believe in it, what are you supposed to do?
I'm a little altered and they keep... I'm co-con, so I must be a DID. I'm 4 and 6 years old, but I'm in an adult body, so I can drink alcohol. I'm a citizen in a DID system, so of course I'm gonna get in trouble for what I do. I'm a citizen in a DID system. Of course people will kill people for me. And DID system, so of course, if I cry, I get my way. Duh.
I have heard that having an age regressed or a little online can be potentially harmful. I mean,
Okay, let me just say this. It is not okay for littles to be engaging in adult activities such as substance use, sexual activities. I don't think that littles should be driving. Because it's just not safe. They are children. Yes, the body is of age, but it's still a child. So I don't think that is okay.
we have to kind of view this in the same way as what if a 6-year-old had access to TikTok? What could possibly happen to them? While littles or age-regressed alternative states are not actually children, they possess the mindset and behaviors of a child, reflecting a younger state of emotional and psychological development. Along with not this person specifically, but in some cases you can see a fetishization, I'm so sorry, of age-regressed alters. Again, not this person specifically, but also there can be some, it's online. There are people, all kinds of people online, if you catch my drift. This could lead to an exploitation from individuals who might have a malicious intent. Every single person with DID is different. I mean, I've heard from people who say that their littles do taxes for them, but other individuals with DID might have a little who is completely unaware of what social media is. They might still believe that it is the year, 2006. Some individuals have talked about their littles being in distress, or others might only be interested in toys. How interested is a 6-year-old in posting online? Without supervision, a child can engage in content online that is not safe for them. And at the same time, people are saying, oh, this little was co-conscious, but at the same time, still why?
I mostly agree there. If a little wants to be online and do something online, one, they should always be supervised by an adult or caretaker in the system. And two, it needs to be discussed with that adult or caretaker in the system. It might need to even be discussed with other alters in the system who are more protectors or other caregivers. We didn't see an issue with some of our little streaming. Honestly, I still don't really see an issue if they ever want to again. I know Echo did a video playing Dandy's World, but before that, in that video, she had put out a warning about an individual. I am extremely grateful that our littles were never at all around that person. And if you haven't seen that video, go on to our YouTube. It should be on our homepage. It should be the video there that automatically plays. And in the pinned comment, I believe it's still pinned. in that comment we have a list of usernames for that person. But with that person, it's gone farther than anyone thought it did, to the point where the FBI has been contacted. Anyway.
What's it like to do acid when you have dissociative identity disorder? My name is Pluto. I am a person with DID, and I have done acid multiple times, both before I knew I had DID and afterwards. For me, what I have felt is that it kind of like takes everybody in my system and sort of like pushes them all to the front. So it's not like everybody is fronting at the same time, but it's like they're all kind of hanging around. And this is really cool because it can allow for more direct communication between all of my system members. It doesn't really take a lot of effort for anyone to say something to someone else. And also, I can hear it more directly when I'm on acid, which is really cool for me.
I understand that maybe this person wasn't saying, hey, you should be doing exactly what I'm...
They said directly, for me personally. That is what they said. For me personally. They didn't say everyone with DID experiences that. They said, as me personally, this is what happens.
But also advertising illegal substances can be questionable if this person does or doesn't have DID. It opens up the idea of someone who does have DID watching it and they think, hey, maybe this can help me. Also, this might be completely petty, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you would think if you were diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, you would know that it's not dissociative identity disorder. But at the same time, the effects of LSD vary widely from person to person.
Again, it didn't seem like they were promoting it. They were just sharing their experience with it, probably because someone asked. So they said, okay, I'll make a video on it. Do you want us to share all of our life experiences and our day-to-day and everything that we do so that we can be educational all the time? Or do you not want that? It cannot be both.
Each person will have a different experience. It's unpredictable, can lead to dangerous behavior and harmful psychological effects. So really, this is my own opinion, but let's pretend it is a legal substance like cannabis if it is legal in your state. This might be actually a genuine question, but would a therapist suggest that you turn to these substances in order...
Obviously, a therapist should not be encouraging anyone to turn to substances. And I want to make myself very clear, this is not me promoting that anyone use substances. I am just saying that that person in the video was sharing their personal experience with a substance. And while I don't think that they should be engaging in substance use, that is their own personal choice. If it helps them, great. I personally would not use anything like that. I personally will not allow my system to use anything like that. But for that person, if they want to do it, great. If they don't want to, great. If it helps them, great. If it doesn't, then I hope that they can get help if it is damaging to them. I cannot control other people, other systems, but them sharing their experience isn't promoting anything itself.
In order to gain communication with your alternative states. Editing, Michelle, so in this video I was super against it, but I did find this online. The use of psychedelics for treating PTSD is an area of ongoing research and interest, particularly in a therapeutic setting. Some therapists and researchers advocate for their potential benefits in a certain controlled conditions, as they may help patients process traumatic experiences differently. However, these substances are not typically recommended outside of clinical trial or without professional guidance due to legal restrictions and potential risks. Therapists who specialize in psychedelic-assisted therapy would be the ones to discuss this option with patients in appropriate contexts. Also, hallucinogens can bring up repressed or traumatic memories. So to deter you a little bit from this, I can speak about how people have described being on hallucinogens as an actual traumatic event. You can experience distortions and hallucinations that you genuinely believe are real. High anxiety, paranoia, increased heart rate, and blood pressure. Flashbacks in which you believe that distressing memories from your past are happening right now over and over again, and even when you are sober again, this can be distressing for days or even months. This is known as a bad trip, so I'm just letting you guys know, you know what I mean? But I would be very curious to know what your thoughts were in this.
I didn't know that some therapists actually do include substances in their therapy. That is kind of interesting. I don't think I would ever agree to do something like that, but if it helps other people, more power to them. It is not my life, it is not my choice what other people decide to do. I don't think I have anything else more to say about that. And honestly, I don't really feel like sitting through another video. I think 1 hour is fine for streaming when we haven't done it in at least a month. So I'm going to end here. On YouTube, we might still have the ability to pin comments. I don't know. We got an email saying that we don't anymore. I don't know how accurate that is. If we can pin comments, it will be in the pinned comment with the links to these 2 videos and to our Google document with all of our references. If we don't have the ability to pin comments, it is just going to be a comment. But it will be there. So I am not sure when the next time I will stream will be. But hopefully whoever streams next, even if it is not me, hopefully it will not be for such a large gap between streams. Thank you for watching, and make sure to take care of yourself. Don't listen to one person on the internet, even if that person is us. Do your own research. We have plenty of references in the Google document, which will be in the YouTube comments. just to get you started on that. And I hope everyone has a good rest of their day.